Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club. If you're at all interested in anything we talk about in this episode, go ahead and check out the description down below, or if you even just want to know more about us, click on the links below. Now on to the episode.
Yes, Coffee Experts Club. What's going on, boys?
Hello. Good to have everybody back around this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be down in Belize last week with Drew. That was pretty sick.
Drew's like, not really, but we'll just go with it.
I'm gonna let the lag on internet take the fall for that one.
That's great,
man. So we've got some pretty big stuff shaking down in Belize. For those of you who are opening up multiple locations, Drew and I have been doing like running and gunning. 3 years, 3 locations. That's a lot. It's a lot to be opening up, especially when it's all cash. Like, no credit. You just have to fall and be making enough money to open the next one. And man, it's been a lot. But, when you're 3 in, you never think about having to double back, and that's been the sucky thing we've been up against the last 3 or 4 months is they're tearing down our building for location number 1. We're just in a regular rental spot. It was our first try in Belize, right? We're like, is this American concept of drive-through coffee, fast coffee, like getting it out there, is it going to work in Belize? So we kind of lipsticked on a pig, an ugly old location, but it was right on a traffic center, right where people could walk in and pick up their drinks. And we set it up like a drive-through would be, so people could just walk by, grab a drink, keep it moving. And the shop kicked ass, like location number 1 paid for half of location number 2, location number 1 and 2 paid for all of location number 3, things that, you just dream of in business that's been making Drew and so excited. So we get the third one open only to find out like 2 months later, oh shit, they're tearing down the building for location number 1, right? Like, you never want to double back. Like, that's never what you want to hear. 3 years in, you're going to have to go back and do something different for the first location that kicked ass so hard that has been doing so well. I mean, their transaction count is crazy at that location for us, So Drew and I really had to come up to a spot of, what do you do when they're going to tear down your building? So we found this place. We looked all over the place, like really went long and hard, thought about building another location, but we weren't in a cash positive place where we could just build another location like 3 months in slow season in Belize to come up with cash capital to go build another location. Drew found this great spot right across the street, 100 steps away from our front door right now, which is amazing. And we've really got to pimp the place out. It's pretty sick. Drew's done a great job just being boots on the ground down there, leading that whole charge. But we're coming up on grand opening for location number 1, the re-grand opening of location number 1 and the new location. But we're doing some really cool stuff this round with the local people. And so I'd really love for us to talk about, how do you integrate yourself into a community in a way that is beneficial to the community, but also benefits you as a business. I thought that could be a cool thing for us to kick around this session on Coffee Experts.
Yeah, how are you guys doing that specifically down there in Belize? I remember up here, for us, at least when it comes to grand openings, it was like a lot of radio stations and a lot of giving out door knocker cards for the longest time and walking around the businesses, handing out free cards and stuff. How does that look down in Belize? Is it the same? You guys doing a different method?
Oh man, Drew's got a full-on kick-ass method. Drew, how good's your internet? Are you able to talk?
I mean, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Yeah, go, run with it.
There's a nice long delay there, but I'll say my piece. Yeah, I mean, so what we do here is, we have our standards, we have our methods, but we lean so hard into the local community. And what we've done is source a lot of talent from within the community and people who are connected to the local towns. There's 2 towns we're in here, and people who have a lot of history. There's a lot of old families here. And so what we've been able to do is connect to people who know a lot of the local businesses, who know a lot of the local business owners. And there's local community of business owners, and we plug into that. We do go around, we give free cards to neighboring businesses. There's traffic guys we give free cards to. There's taxi guys we give free cards to. We really network on generosity, which is something we learned at Roasters, was always be generous, always be giving. And it really works here. Now, of course, I'm not going to go door to door here. It's not quite that kind of community. But going business to business here is one of our methods that we use here. And one of the people that we sourced, as I mentioned, talent from the community, is this young lady who's been doing all our marketing. She does a great job. Her name's Alyssa. I've tried to get her work in the States actually a little bit, and she's worked with some people up there just because she's so talented. Yeah. And what she's helped me do here is connect with local businesses to bring them to our grand opening and showcase some of what they have going on. So for our grand opening, we have, I think, 4 or 5 businesses coming in, which are kind of cohesive, but not, direct competitors like food places or jewelry places or custom clothing. and getting creative. Like our grand reopening is the day before Valentine's Day, and so we're going to have a flower vendor there, amongst some other things. So what we've been able to do is reach out to the community here and ask, who wants to be a part of this thing that we're doing. And we've grown quite quickly, and Belize isn't a big place, so a lot of people know who we are. And so these local communities, in my opinion, the local businesses within the community, we're a small business in my eyes, but they coming and partnering with us is cohesive for them as well, because they're growing, and everybody loves a little bit of exposure. So we've been able to partner with some great people, and I'm really looking forward to the market style grand opening we have going on.
That's a really cool idea. That's something I hadn't thought about. Bring a bunch of so you're essentially like almost making a farmer's market out of your grand opening.
That's right. And I think that the cool thing about it, like Drew was saying, this young gal, Alyssa, like for her, she's so gifted at it, but like we're her first like real go at it. You know what I mean? Like she hasn't been doing this for a lot of people. So it's like she's in university, she's growing these skills. We've got to plug her in. She's growing alongside of us as we're growing. And then it's been cool just to see these other contacts. We've got Pedro Cruz, which is a local artist who's painted murals at all of our locations, right? That's kind of one of our signatures is Pedro Cruz's art, and he's an old time like muralist that's been known in this community for decades, whose art is just renowned, throughout the country. He's painted throughout the country, but it's cool to have that on all of our locations. So Pedro's actually going to be live painting in the middle of the grand opening, right? So he's going to come in and you can watch him paint. And then we're going to do some classic stuff like we always do at Roasters, right? Or like all for all of our grand openings, like free giveaways, crazy deals, like really drive the traffic. But also the coolest thing I think about when you partner up with a local florist or a local jeweler, or a local baker, each one of those people have followings. And by bringing them in, you give them a platform to announce what they're going to be doing. So then we get to capitalize on their market share in a way that's very like win-win. It's mutually beneficial. You know what I mean? So the cool thing about that is it introduces our people to other people's stuff out there that's cool. It introduces all of their people to our coffee, who hopefully that's going to, generate some like return customers. But even better than all that, it comes back to what we talk about a lot here for indie coffee companies. And that is, how do you become the hometown hero? Like, how do you scream, no, we know San Ignacio. No, we know that this is our town. Like, we're going to engraft ourselves into these people. We're going to be a partner in all these different businesses, all these different circles. We're going to bring benefit back to them. We're not just going to take. Like, we're going to bring benefit back to them, give them an opportunity to come and show their wares, make some money, get some exposure, because we're a huge lead magnet, right? We've got hundreds of thousands of followers, right? Yep. We've got all these likes and eyeballs on our social media, way more than any of these other vendors that are going to come out, right? So we can be a magnet to get eyeballs on them. And then we get to have access to microcosms of their communities too. And it can be a mutually beneficial thing. And it benefits the people of San Ignacio because we're cycling all these people in one place. They can come to a one-stop shop and have so much exposure to so much cool stuff. So I'm really excited. It was Drew and Alyssa's baby. I can't take much credit for it. Like, they came up with this beautiful idea, and I'm just excited. I'm going to go back down for it, even though I was just in Belize for a family vacation. I'm going to circle back up just to go down for it because I don't want to miss it, because it sounds like it's going to be something really
Twist your arm to get back to Belize, right?
Twist my arm, Ben Clatterbuck. I will say I had to pay for it on points, and my flight pattern on the way down is awful. You do what you got to do to get back down to where you love.
Oh, that's great. That is such a great idea, though. I never thought about having essentially a public market festival for a grand opening. So are you guys doing it over a couple days? Is it just one day, or is it like a weekend? How is that working out?
Yeah. So like pretty classic style for Roasters, like Friday, we're doing a Friday kickoff, and then deal days through the weekend, that's going to overlap into Valentine's Day. So it'll also partner up with, like doing Valentine's Day drinks. I mean, like some cool stuff that you can do that is seasonal. So yeah, it'll run all weekend, Friday through a Sunday, and we'll do deal days, that'll build each day. And yeah.
And was this all just from Drew just running around to businesses, talking to people about the idea? I mean, it seems I'm trying to like do a one-to-one comparison. If I was to do something like that up here in the States, is it just part of the people or I guess it seems like the community down there is a bit more tight-knit, so it's a bit easier to say, talk to Joe down the street who's got a restaurant or a bakery or jewelry store in that sense.
I think that coffee shops, have this real name. We talk about it a lot on the show. They're fierce independents, right? coffee shop owners, especially independent, like indie shops, like they've bootstrapped this thing together. Like part of that is like there's some pride in that. The danger for fierce independence, though, sometimes can be you're an island, like
Yeah.
you're out there on your own. So it's like you have to rely on your social media. You have to rely on your ads that you're running. You have to rely on your good ideas. You know what I mean? Instead of, no, how could we actually form some partnerships that would be a mutually beneficial relationship? How could we do some things that are complementarian? So that's why for me, I really no, we don't make our own pastries. You know what I mean? Like we partner with a pastry vendor, you know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
that opens up an automatic door, right? There's an automatic good connection there. And it keeps our people very specialized on this is what we do. We serve coffee, like down in Belize, like it's that there's very few coffee shops that only serve coffee. Like they're
Yeah.
full kitchen or they're doing some other knickknacks or a gift shop or something. It's like they're trying, but from my perspective, they're trying to do too much, you know what I mean? And then it distracts them from, no, we just do kick-ass coffee here. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I would always say, like, do something that you do well and then look for local partnerships. Look, I know we talk about Bentleys a lot when we talk about these kinds of
Yeah.
things, up in Corvallis and Salem up there in Northern Oregon. I think that they do a great job with local shelters because their whole brand is all around pets. You know what I mean? So like they have their baristas memorize pets' names as they come through, right?
Hmm.
Because that's their shtick. That's what makes them different. And then they do donations back to local shelters. And then the beauty of that is, as I donate to this local shelter, well, that shelter has a microcosm of people that follow the shelter. So
Hmm.
indirectly, I get those visitors. So I think that I would always look for things that can be complementary. Like what's a business that could be complementary to mine? What's something I could be benevolent towards? I know Roasters back in the day, Jarek even does still to this day up at Swag, does crazy good stuff in this way up in the
Yep.
Tri-Cities where he's
Yep.
donating to these groups and looking like a good guy because he is a good guy, but also it gives him free marketing into their microcosms as they begin to talk about how Swag's donating back,
Hmm.
like dollars per cup. So I think there's cool ways you can do it, but it is going to take you realizing you're not an island. You need a community. You need to be able to tap into things. Either that or you need to spend a shit ton of money on your ads to try and but it's one or the other. Yeah.
No, that's a really, really good point because yeah, coffee shop owners are notoriously solopreneurs who don't want help and don't want a crack open for what goes on behind the business wall. I think for a US standpoint, I would really look at, can you bring food trucks in who want to do like a food truck
Yes.
lot in your parking lot?
Yes.
I remember there was a way back in the day. I think it was an anniversary for our first year at one of the shops I was managing. We had one of the baristas was a DJ at one of the local
Yeah.
bars, and so he would DJ on the weekend. So we had him set up, at like 2 in the afternoon, and he just was out there DJing, the whole day, the whole weekend, doing stuff like that. I think from the U.S. perspective, it might be a little bit more difficult because there is so much in your community. So
Yep.
you really have to find those and look hard for those actual local businesses and yeah, make those connections. But I think food trucks, food carts, your local breweries probably do something. If you're anywhere in the Northwest, you've probably got a brewery or two around you that would probably partner up. That was one of the cool partnerships we did way back in the day too. Was we have a local brewery here that would use our coffee, our cold brew in a stout, and that was a
Yep.
really cool relationship because we would advertise their stout in our shops, and they would advertise our coffee in their shops.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool connection. But yeah, it really does take a little bit of time and a little bit of curiosity in the businesses around you. You
Yep.
can't just say, "Hey, I'm a coffee shop and I don't want to help anybody. And I don't want anybody's help. I can do it on my own." It just doesn't work.
And I think honestly, it's exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's what leads to burnout. I think you can be a fierce independent when you've got maybe one or two shops. You know what I mean? Or yeah, like, but I think that if you get much beyond that, you're going to realize like, I need help. Like I
Hmm.
like, and I can grow this thing further faster if I would just pull in help. I remember kind of pulling in a cross section of what we do at Collab team that's not coffee. But I remember Keith Yackey it is a client of ours on the other side of the business that's online coaching. And I remember when Keith was in a real estate brand before, one of the original Shark Tanks guys came and was a speaker at one of the big events. And he was talking about how, and this was a decade ago, the future of media is you're not going to be buying big ads on TV anymore, big ads on radio anymore, big ads at the movie theaters anymore. Like, you can still do that. That may still be part of your ad budget. But what it's going to become is all these mini little screens
Mm-hmm.
that, you're going to want to get into some microcosms, because the collective of like 10 microcosms actually collectively adds up to what you might have done
Mm-hmm.
originally in a big screen for a fraction of the price, right? If we can just learn how to capture smaller communities by creating some interconnectivity, you actually get the same result without just like lighting money on fire and screaming into the wind, which is what I think a lot of times social media marketing is, right? Like, there's so much demand for attention, and so it's like you're just out there screaming into the wind, hoping maybe somebody's going to pay attention to your random ad to cold traffic that maybe they've heard of you and maybe they haven't. Or you can find something that's near and dear to their heart, go and partner up with that business or that nonprofit, and then have their immediate attention because they love that nonprofit. They love that local business. And when you're pairing up with them, they're like, oh, really? Well, that's kind of cool that they're doing that. And then you've got their attention, and it costs you a fraction of the price and just a little bit more interconnectivity. So I know that there is that fierce independence that I love about indies. I love indie coffee shops. Like we work with the franchises out there, and they're great, and we love working with them too. You know what I mean? But not as I think in my heart is always going to be an indie guy. Which is why we created Indie Coffee Coalition, to try and
Mm-hmm.
bang down
Mm-hmm.
pricing for some of those things for the coffee shops. If you haven't checked out Indie, you should. Indie Coffee Co. IndieCoffee.co is how you can find it. But fierce independence in the indies, I love them, but don't cut off your nose to spite your face, man. Don't get so fiercely independent that you're relying on yourself for everything and not realizing if you just locked arms with some local folks, you could do some really great attention.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it plenty of times, but there's a difference between being successful in your business and being the hometown hero. You can be
Yep.
successful. You can have 2, 3 locations. You're not working on bar. You've covered your income, and you're feeling good. But if you want to at all be that coffee empire, that 10, 15, 20 location, the hometown
Yep.
hero, it requires you to be a part of the community, because nobody in your community is gonna embrace that unless they see you everywhere, unless everybody loves you, unless everybody loves going to your shop. And that does require, for the CEO introvert to open up a little bit and get out there and get to some local, business meetings, some local business chapters, get to your monthly charters where all the business members get together and network. It does require that a little bit. Just get your name out there.
Man, I think I know we jab at Wes all the time, from the good old roasters days, and I think it's fun to tease and to poke fun. But I will say, of all of the dozens of coffee shops that we've worked with through the years, me and you, Ben, very, very few have accelerated the way Wes did in those early years. You know what I mean? And growing it from just 1 or 2 coffee shops up to 15 shops and a roastery, and then exit with a big purchase from like an outfit like BlackRock, like that. We've never worked with another company that's grown at that kind of rate and that has had that kind of an exit. And it's because I feel like there are very few of them out there that actually accelerate like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
will say, what Wes did really well was, how do I win hometown hero status? How do I treat the customers as number one and give them what they want and what the customers really wanted? There was a whole cross section of time where we let the customers choose, who do you want us to donate to this month? Like, what are the local nonprofits we can get behind? Like, what are cool things we can like get in the middle of? How can we get into the local schools? CJ and Lindsay at Outsider, I feel like have really done that well as well, where they work with other businesses that will buy a happy hour, you know what I mean? And they'll
Yep.
sponsor a $300 gift
Yep.
card for the sake of promoting this other business, and then there's the reciprocity of that. They get their name out there and they look like a hero to all of the outsider folks that they're buying coffee for, and Outsider's able to really drive traffic and drive eyeballs to it. So I just think, as you're thinking as a business owner, as you're thinking as a coffee shop, realize there are all different kinds of coffee shops out there. And maybe you don't want to grow. Maybe you're just like, Aaron, I just like my onesie twosie shops, and that, man, all the power to you. I think that it's a heavy lift. That's a heavy lift. I mean, I think that the more that you build, I think that it can get easier because many hands make lighter work. But I
Mm-hmm.
will say, if you want to get much bigger than onesie twosie, I think you have to learn how to play well with others. And I do think that Roasters is a great example to us. And I'm really grateful for it. These years where we're down in Belize and 3 years in, we're 3 shops on and talking about a 4th shop coming in 2027. I think that we're just going to continue to push speeds. Anyway, grateful for you, dude. Thank you for a good episode. I hope Coffee Experts, you enjoyed it. If you're in Belize next week, man, come and enjoy our grand opening. I'm excited to be down there and see the magic that Drew and Alyssa have put together. So thanks, Ben. Appreciate you, man. Drew, we miss you. Sorry we lost you due to poor Belize internet, but the new location has better internet, so I'm excited about that. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week here on Coffee Experts Club.
See you guys.